video today is shaping flaps. I've cut them to shape, to the size that they need to be, and I use the finger method to draw the center line on them. And I just draw a center line. And then come up about a 1/16 of an inch and draw another line right next to it. And then do the same on the other side. So we're going to end up with 3 lines. Now you can use the rod method. I don't like it. It's fast and it's easy, but the flaps don't look to me as nice as a airfoiled flap. So this is a technique from the 60s. Just basic woodwork probably. On how to get a nice looking flap. So 3 lines on this one. So we're going to end up with a trailing edge of this flap at 1/8 of an inch approximately. Now I'm using my hinging system on this, so we're not going to sand 45-degree flats in it. We're in the leading edge of this flap. We're going to sand rounds into that flap. Many of these techniques that I'm showing are being lost because there aren't many builders anymore. So now we want an airfoil for this piece. So I take a block plane. You can use a knife, but I just start planing the trailing edge down up to the high point. I mean, you'll be surprised how quick this goes. It only takes but a few minutes to sand the flap and have it look really nice. I should have weighed this before we started. I wanna see if I can knock the weight at least 25% off the weight of this flap. The weight of this flap is 1.10, which is really rather heavy, but it's all the wood that I have. I mean, I'd like to start it out with flaps that were 3/4 of an ounce, but that's just not the way it works anymore. Anyway, the thing about a block plane is you want to set the blade so it's only taking about maybe 3 to 5 thousandths off at a time. If you set it to take a 1/16 of an inch off, or you have a 1/16 of an inch sticking out, and you think, well, I'm going to do a good job, a quick job getting it knocked down, you're only hurting yourself. So, that fast we've planed off the trailing edge. And now the tricky part comes. We want this to taper up to the center of the flap. Don't make it too close because we're going to sand it with 80 grit. 50 if you got it. I don't have it today, but want to sight down it, make sure it's staying straight. You don't want to. You can always steam these before you install them. And if you're going to steam them, make sure it's finished before you install it and steam it. Because if you steam it first and then finish it, it's only going to warp. And this is a good way to get the flap perfectly straight as well. Because you're using your eye. Okay, so we've knocked down a considerable amount. Then I take 80 grit, and this is a kind of a secret. You want to sand from the trailing edge to the high point. So we're grinding off as a matter of fact, let me get this out so you can see how you get real nice shapes. I have a light stand here, and it's just a camera light stand with a light on it. Stand back. I guess maybe you can see this. Let me see here. Turn the camera a little bit. This light is, I don't know, it's only a 60. If you got 100, it's better. But so what we're doing here is we're going to candle it in the light, and you can see the high parts and where you missed. And you just start shaping it down. And trust me, we're almost done. That's turning out very nice. Of course, then again, we'll look at the, I'll show the end of the flap. Okay, that's one side. We've got it roughed in. Let's go back and do the other side. And these airfoil flaps look so much better than just a board flat flap, because they reflect the light so much better. Are they lighter? I doubt it. Just a personal preference. If you want to do the rod method, you know, you can go ahead and do that. I'm just passing on things that I do. So many different ways to do this. We're going to be doing, I'm going to get my molds out. We're going to do some mold repair. I'll do a short video on mold repair, because the molds have to be in good shape to mold a finished product. So we're going to repair those, and then we're going to mold some fuselage skins. I will be doing a Bearcat, an Alraid Bearcat. We're going to make those molds, and I'm going to show how to make those molds on camera. However, I'm supposed to be painting today, but it's raining outside and you just can't paint in the rain. So instead of wasting time, we're back on this project. I want to catch up with Steve Fitton and his Super Steris build. This build is less than a week old. We got the wing done, working on the flaps. Take a day to build the elevator stabilizer. I could use the one off my old Thunderbolt, and the controls in this are off my old Thunderbolt, so I didn't have to make those. They were just... I did add a new bell crank, but the push rod and horns were already made up. You don't want to sand flats in it either. You want to keep rolling this block so that it is a nice smooth transition. Keep the block flat and don't sand flats in it. We're sanding an airfoil. You can use the light. And I see that I have a spot right here that needs some attention. Okay. Sand it a little bit. And now we're going to put the round on the leading edge. Now, I really hate to do this, but I'm gonna do it just for the sake of camera. I'm gonna put a center line on this. And in order to get around and make it round, is we're gonna come back the same distance on the top. But instead of putting a flat on it, I'm going to sand it round. Because this is getting my blade hinges. As a matter of fact, I'll probably never use any other type hinges. I know I make this look easy, and it is, but it's 50 years of practice. Are you going to be able to manipulate the sanding block exactly like I do? Not unless you come here for a week of learning, but it doesn't mean you can't at home practice and learn how to do this. This is an art. Sanding is a art. Okay, so we've got it roughed in, and it's kind of high right here. In order to make it perfectly straight, my long sanding bar has disappeared. Oh, here it is. We're going to take the 30-inch sanding bar and straighten that up. And that just transitions the highs. Now we'll do the trailing edge here. I don't know how long this video has been running, but we're almost done getting it all roughed out, and then we'll switch to 220 and finish it up. I'm going to check it against the wing here. Okay, if you look at the end here, you can see that it's in an airfoil. And on this end, it's in an airfoil, but it's got some flab in it. So the center section, because it's such a distance, it has a flab in it. And we can continue to sand, or you can let it go. It's entirely up to you. Probably should switch over to 220 and sand with the 220 to finish off the shape. Let's get a weight on it. Remember, it started at 1.1. It's probably only down to 1 ounce, which is not great, but what I got. .85, took quite a bit off. Okay, so here we have, no, this is 80. That's 50. 320. 220. Sand this way, so now we take the soft block and we're going to finish it up. remember, you want to keep sanding that airfoil in it. You don't want to sand back and forth this way, because that'll put flaps in it. We want it to be airfoil. So you push on the leading edge, release, and push on the trailing edge as you're sliding it across. And then we'll check it with the light, and we're done. But that's basically how I do flaps and make really nice looking flaps. When you build an airplane like this, with as much work as it's going to go into this, into the finish, you certainly want the woodwork to be as best as you possibly can do. The finish is way harder, takes more time than building the airplane. I could build this airplane if I had all this stuff in a week. The finish will take, I think my last Thunderbolt took 3 months. And that was 10 hours a day for 3 months. And we're going to do the same type finish on this airplane, because I want to replace my Thunderbolt that hit the ground. My only issue is I wish I had my PAs back. Well, you can see the end of the flap there starting to take on the airfoil shape and not have any flaps in it. And that's what we're trying to do all the way across the So sanding is not something I can teach over the computer. I'm not even sure I could teach it in person. It's an acquired skill. And the biggest thing to time management is knowing what paper to use and when to switch. And don't use old sandpaper. When it quits cutting, get a new piece of paper. Might as well go ahead and hinge this up. I can't. I don't have any hinges made up. So I'll have to make some hinges. I was just going to go right into the hinging of this, but I have no hinges made. And then just sand your line off. Turned out nice. Don't leave the pen line on because it will come through the dope. Anyway, you get the drift. Cut the camera. I'm going to finish it off with 320. And then we'll go on to the next one. And I'll spend the same amount of time making that other flap. Then we can mount them or install them after I make hinges. Check the weight. Took off another 0.5. So we took over a 1/4 ounce off of this. So, because both these flaps weighed the same when I started. $3.20. Well, as a telemarketer, I'll try to edit this out if I can remember to do so. So now, what I'm doing is I'm removing all the scratches in it. And because I sanded with 80 and then 220 with the grain, there's not many. So we'll be ready to go right to clear dope. See, this was the inboard flap. No, outboard. Yep, very happy with that. That looks real good. So now this is my my Thunderbolt foam wing, and if you followed along, you'd be this far in less than a week. And we're going to fit the flap up here to see what it looks like. Oh, this is, there we go. So we'll have to blend this tip in when I get it mounted. It's up about 1/8 of an inch, and that's fine, but we'll wait till it's mounted. And that seam looks real good. And remember, because I'm using my hinges, there's no hinge gap. It rotates 3/16 of an inch behind the leading edge of the flap. So the leading edge of the flap stays right up against the trailing edge throughout its rotation, if I do my job correctly. No need for crappy hinge tape. Hinge tape is terrible. So that looks good. Now Steve Fitton's wing came out at 14.5 ounces. This is going to come out around 15.9, but it has landing gear clips in it and it's larger. I'm not exactly sure where the weight is now. But we can look. It'll come out about 16. Best I can do. $15.25 and 3/4. It could be just under 16, depending on how much this flap weighs when it's sanded out. But as I stated, this wing has landing gear clips in it. Now I put the fiberglass tape in the center. I don't put footballs on mine. I just silk span from the tip till about 3 inches over the center, maybe 4, and then reverse it so that it gets a double row of tissue in the center. And that seems to have always worked. I have never folded a wing, ever. That's not saying it can't happen, but hasn't happened to me yet. And I built a lot of airplanes. So anyway, I'm going to cut the camera. I'll try to edit out the phone call from the telemarketer. These guys are relentless, so we'll see you in a bit.